Who's first time here? Oh, thank you. Let's give a round of applause to the new people. All right, so we'll get this show on the road. I'm going to ask you guys to stand, and I'm going to ask Larry Stickney to come up and lead us in an invocation.
Great. Thanks. All right. Hats off here. Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you for this evening and for the blessing of fellowship with fellow patriots, men and women who love liberty, cherish our Constitution, and understand that our rights come from you alone. Lord, we lift up and thank you for faithful servants like Dave Workman, Jane Muehlhans, steadfast champions of the Second Amendment who have devoted their lives to defending the freedoms our founders enshrined. Bless them for their courage to speak truth in an age of compromise and confusion. Strengthen their voices, Lord, and multiply their influence as they continue to sound the alarm against those who would strip away our God-given rights. We also bring before you, Lord, our communities and county where voter turnout in the August primary was a dismal 22%. We acknowledge that when good people stay home, bad people win. Stir the hearts of your people to engage, to stand, to vote, and to fight for righteousness in the public square. Remind us that stewardship of freedom requires action, not apathy. We dedicate this gathering and all that we do tonight to you, Lord Jesus, asking that you bless our efforts, renew our strength, and embolden us to preserve this land of liberty for generations to come. We pray all this in the mighty name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you could remain standing, I'm going to ask Patty Manning to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. She's one of our great volunteers that spends a lot of hours helping with putting on these events.
Please join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. So please help yourself to the snacks back there. That's what I bring to keep you guys happy. So at this time, I want to remind everybody who got their ballot already. Okay? Every election is important. The other side farm teams their candidates through school board races and stuff, so we cannot sit at home. Like Larry said in his prayer, Pierce County had 22% turnout, which means that we had close to 80% advocate their right to pick a good candidate over to the other side. So that's what happens when we don't vote. But you guys all vote. So if you want help voting, I'll talk about it in a little bit, but I will have some additional resources before Sunday. But at this time, I want to welcome Dave Workman up here. You know, I was at the NRA annual meeting in Dallas, Texas, and the hotel room gives us a magazine all the way in Texas, and there's Dave Workman on the front page. So he's pretty well known all across this country, a great writer, been an advocate for Second Amendment rights forever. He does competition, I think hunting, and a little bit of everything. So he's your world-renowned expert in the field here, aren't you, Dave? And he drove all the way from North Bend, so we do appreciate you. Come on up, Dave.
Well, thank you, Jane. Now, who wants to join me in Frank Sinatra songs? That's the only thing I can think of to entertain this crowd tonight. Who voted for Semi Bird last year? Well, I hear some negatives right there. Who voted for Dave Reichert last year? Who voted for Bob Ferguson? Who didn't vote last year? Because if you didn't vote, you voted for first. Who remembers the late Dory Monson from Cairo Radio? And I knew Dory a little bit. I considered him a pal. And he used to say on the air that Bob Ferguson is the most dangerous politician in Washington State. And it would have been a lot of fun to see him around for the elections last fall. That might have been some interesting stuff that he had to say on the radio. I think the thing that we all must remember is that in order to make the system work, we have to stop sitting on the bench. We got to get on the field, because politics, it's a contact sport. And it's not a spectator sport unless you want to lose. 22% of a voter turnout, that just sucks. People in Pierce County, I grew up down here in Pierce County, ought to be ashamed of themselves. Must have been some hot reruns of I Love Lucy or something. I don't know why they didn't vote. They get to fill out their ballot at home, sitting on their couch. All they got to do is put it in the mail or go down to the library and drop it in the mailbox down there. Who would like to see a return of in-person voting? Well, it might be a good idea to get behind that movement, because there is a movement out there to return us to in-person voting. I used to vote all the time. In fact, the first time I voted, I got to vote for president. I just turned 18, and I got to vote for president. And I thought that was the neatest thing, because I showed up and say, yeah, this is my address, this is who I am, here's my voter registration, and I got to vote in a machine, and as far as I can tell, my vote counted. Mail-in balloting bothers a lot of people because they worry that their ballots don't count or won't get counted. And I get that. But until we can change the system, you have to fill that ballot out. You gotta vote. When I was doing a column for Guns Magazine on Second Amendment defense, Guns, by the way, has just ceased publication this last month, which is a pity, because I considered it one of the top 2 firearms periodicals in the country. And it had been around for, I don't know, something like 60 or 70 years, long time. And I would write in there that you have to vote. It's important. If you're not registered at your current address, change that. Make sure that you are registered at your current address. I was talking to a guy over here next to the table here a little bit ago. Reminded me that he has run into people at the gun show out here in Puyallup who didn't vote, won't vote. I used to run into people like that too at the Washington Arms Collectors Gun Show. And I got some of the most asinine remarks when I asked them, why don't you vote? I guess the list starts with, I don't want my name on the list. And I would look at these guys and say, well, wait a minute, you pay property taxes, don't you? Yeah. You got a driver's license, don't you? Yeah. You got a concealed pistol license, don't you? Yeah. You're on several lists. Go for the whole enchilada. Get your name on the list. Make yourself known. Who in this room knows his or her state legislator? Known by name? They should know your name. We got a legislative session coming back into session in January. Between now and then, you have an opportunity to find out who your lawmaker or lawmakers are, get their contact information, and make sure that they know who you are. Write them letters, make phone calls, send them email messages. That's really easy. You can do that from your home, too. It's important that they know that you're watching what they do, because guess what? You're taxpayers. You outrank those guys. They're not the boss. You are. You elect those people to represent you, not to rule you. If they are Democrats, make sure that they know that you're watching and that you want them to respect your rights. Jane's got a little handout over here about all the legislation that's been passed in the last, 5 years?
Yeah.
None of it's good. I remember I testified down there 2 years ago and helped stop a bill on some gun control bill. And when I sat down, I told the committee, I think Jim Walsh was on that committee, that in 2014, if you recall, we passed the first of these gun control initiatives, 584. Everybody remember that? And that measure was sold to the public as a way to reduce homicides and violent crime in Washington State. 4 years later, in 2018, we passed another gun control initiative. This one was banning or tightening down on semi-automatic rifles, misidentified as assault weapons. So here a couple of years ago, I sat down, because I'm a journalist and I'm a reporter and I do this stuff for a living, I had written about the crime patterns in this state since those initiatives were adopted. In 2015, the city of Seattle adopted a gun and ammunition tax. Everybody remember that? So I have all this data with me. It just rolls off my tongue. I didn't even have to have notes. And I reminded the committee that since 2014, in the 10 years between then and 24 when I was testifying, the number of homicides in Washington State had doubled. Since 2015, the number of homicides in Seattle had tripled. There were some people on that committee that seemed very shocked by that. Maybe they were shocked that somebody who know that. They're so good at not talking about that sort of thing, because what it does is it shows that their programs have been failures, just abject failures. Now, it's up to you guys to remind your friends and neighbors about that sort of thing and get them out to vote. You know, we've got local elections going on right now, school boards, and there's some park district stuff. I know that there's a hospital district election going on in my area. I live up in North Bend. Anti-gun politicians get their start someplace. And they learn the ropes about running for office when they run for these small local positions. And then they like to climb the ladder. Some of them do it because they like the idea of collecting a paycheck. Others do it because they think that they've got all the answers to our problems. They don't. They want to spend our money. I'd like to keep more of mine. And when it comes to the Constitution, Article 1, Section 24 of the state constitution and the Second Amendment of the federal constitution protect our right to bear arms. The Second Amendment doesn't give us anything. It has never given us anything. The Second Amendment prevents government from stepping on our rights. Unfortunately, too many people on Capitol Hill have decided that that's a government-regulated privilege instead of a constitutionally protected right. We can't let them think that. You got to remind them of that, and that's why you need to be in touch with your lawmakers all the time. If you have a Republican representative in your district, don't get them reelected. Because, like it or not, the gun issue is where we see the biggest division on party line stuff outside of the budget. And right now, the Democrats are really close to having a supermajority. We can't let that happen. Because if you want to keep your money for retirement, if you want to not pay more property taxes, you don't want your money spent on something that you don't want it spent on, and certainly if you want to protect your gun rights, you got to vote with the guys and the gals who are going to stand fast with your Second Amendment rights in Article 1, Section 24 of the state constitution. I got into journalism well into the last century. And the only politician who ever really actually hung up on me during the middle of an interview was our own Senator Patty Murray. Now, I remember this because it happened in front of people who were in my office. I got her on the phone over I believe it was an op-ed piece that had run in the old Seattle PI. Everybody remember the old PI? Yeah. So I called her office up. And I asked her about this column because it was her name in the Bible. And there were some interesting statistics in this column that I had never seen before on firearms and crime. And so after a couple of softball questions, I threw the hardball at her and said, "Hey, where did you get the data?" And her reaction was, "I don't know." And I kind of stopped her and "You don't know where that data came from?" And there was a little break of silence. And she said, "I've got to take this call." And she hung up on me. And the people in the office who were kind of listening behind this, I'm sure they heard me say, "Hello, Senator. Senator, hello." Oh. That's the kind of thing that convinced me that something is wrong. And at that time, I had probably 15 years of experience in journalism. It just, hey, wait a minute. That's not supposed to happen. But it did. And, you know, she probably doesn't recall that conversation. I certainly do. I've been able to ask questions of people that I'm sure it made them uncomfortable, but they were honest enough to try to answer them. And that's really a good thing, because as I mentioned earlier, they're not the bosses you are. Everybody who gets a paycheck for serving in the state legislature or for serving on Capitol Hill, they work for you. Maybe they're not getting a paycheck. No, they are getting their paychecks now. It's just everybody else is not getting their paychecks. I guess they're getting their paychecks. But you need to remind them all the time that, hey, you work for us, not you work for me. That doesn't, why? Hell, I'd hang up on you if you said, "Hey, you work for me." I don't listen to that. No, you work for us. You work for the American people, and they have a right to know. Now, as a voter, you can fire these people. I wrote last year, guess what? You get to overthrow the government of the United States next Tuesday. And it's all legal. All you got to do is vote. Now, there are some people who believe that we don't have a chance to take back Washington State because, we always get outvoted by those Seattle people. If you look at the data, a lot of those Seattle people, they don't vote either. And if we had 100% voting in all the counties, all the red counties around the state, you might not be able to beat them, but you can push them back. You got to level the playing field, and the only way to do that is to take seats away from them in the state house and the state senate. And if you take enough seats away from them, they're not going to be so cavalier about stepping on your rights. But you got to vote. And you got to let them know that you're out here and that you're watching them. That's the only thing that counts. I've been doing this I worked for the Second Amendment Foundation and the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms now for a little over 25 years. And that has taught me a few things. One of the things I learned is that a lot of hunters don't vote. Now, shame on them. I hunt, and in the days before the mail-in ballots came in, I got an absentee ballot. Or I drove home from hunting camp just to cast a ballot, stayed there long enough to gas up my truck, turn around and drive back and get back to camp. And in those days, I had to drive over Chinook Pass, sometimes in the snow, at night. That's not very much fun. But I did it because I believe in the system. And if you don't believe in the system, I got a map that shows you the way to California. You're entitled to it. In a few minutes, I'm going to open this up to Q&A. Now, who in here is a firearms instructor? Certified firearms instructor. Okay? I know that you guys know what the 4 rules of gun safety are. But do you know what the 5th rule is? The 5th rule of gun safety is don't let the government take your guns. That's like, don't ask for a bite of chuck roast if you're eating at Donner Pass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some people there that wouldn't went over your head. But never ask for the chuck roast. And ground chuck is, keep that off the menu too. That was what? That was terrible?
Yeah.
Oh, I ain't even started yet. It's easy to register to vote in this state. It's easier if you're dead, but you can still register while you're alive. And all you got to do is register to vote at your current address. You got to remember that because there are some people, honestly, who move and they forget to re-register at their current address so that they can vote. That's got to stop because without your vote, you really got nothing to complain about. if you let somebody else decide your future, well, that's your problem. Except that it becomes our problem. I think that you can get online and find out all about registering to vote. It's not a big. Who's got a laptop, a home computer?
We've got forms.
He's got forms. Okay. See, it's even easier because you have forms. Who belongs to the National Rifle Association? Who supports or belongs to the Second Amendment Foundation? Who belongs to or supports the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms? How about Gun Owners of America? National Association for Gun Rights. Okay, you're the people who really help move things along because you support the organizations that are really fighting the good fight. Now, I remember when I was much younger. I'm probably going to forget when I was much younger soon, but right now I can remember that. And it always seemed to me that there were people who were willing to just sit back and relax because they knew that the NRA was going to come in and save their bacon every year. Now, how stupid is that? You're the NRA. You're the gun lobby. Neil Knox. Everybody remember that name, Neil Knox? Neil Knox was a friend of mine. I served with him on the NRA board of directors for 3 terms. And Neil always, when he opened his speaking engagements, he would say, "Hello, gun lobby," because that's who you are. You are the gun lobby. And you've got to put your rights ahead of all the other stuff that you think about. I think about taxes. My 2 sons are a long time out of school that graduated. But those are things that are important to all of us too. Paying for public education, keeping our roads clean, fighting crime. But all that needs to take a back seat to your constitutional rights. It really has to do that. I can't tell you how important that is because, once your right is gone, once you've allowed it to escape, you ain't getting it back. And as I mentioned earlier, there are too many people in government right now who think that the right to keep and bear arms is a government-regulated privilege, and they treat it like that. On May 1st, 2027, something happens in this state that is going to make most of you guys sick. On that day, and from that day forward until we can successfully sue them and take it back in the U.S. Supreme Court, you're going to need a permit from the police in order to buy a firearm in this state. Now that has to be unconstitutional. You don't need permission from anybody to exercise a constitutionally protected right. But they passed that down there in Olympia. I went down there to testify against that too. And as I sat before that same committee, I reminded them, hey, you know what they call a place where you need police permission to exercise a right? They call that a police state. And there were some people on that committee who didn't like to hear that either. Well, boo-hoo. The people who vote for these things, the people who sponsor this legislation, they're the people that you really ought to look at and see if you can find a candidate to run against them and move them out of office. And if you are successful to beat them, let them know why. Now you can do all kinds of things. It's got to be legal. Don't threaten anybody. Don't make nasty phone calls. If you're going to talk to somebody, stay on topic. Make your letters or your notes to them very brief, like 2, 3, 4 paragraphs. That's all. Stay on subject. Be respectful. And just say, look, I don't believe that this piece of legislation is good. I encourage you to vote against it. And leave it at that. Sign it, put your address on it, ask for a response. I get responses occasionally from state legislators to whom I send notes. Some of the times it's just word salad. Some of the times it's a history lesson about, this bill did this and this bill did that, and thank you, I'll keep your thoughts in mind when I vote on it. They didn't, but at least they knew what I was thinking. And that's grassroots activism. That's how it works. Let them know you're in the neighborhood and that you're not going anywhere. And if it has to be, start knocking on doors. Start sharing with your friends and neighbors why X bill is bad. Put a yard sign if you're going to support somebody for election. Volunteer to work in their campaign. There was a guy who, his wife, Tanya Metaxa, is one of my writers at the Gun Mag, which is the old Gun Week. We're now completely unaligned. Been there for about 5 years. George Metaxa came out here when we had an initiative. This was back in 1997. We had an initiative on the ballot. And he flew out here on his own nickel because at the time his wife, Tanya, was, I think she was either on the board of the NRA or she was at the head table at the Institute for Legislative Action. And I had to get up and do a presentation before the board during a meeting one day. And I recognized George. We had a campaign headquarters up in Bellevue. And every once in a while on my way home from work, at the time I was writing for Fishing and Hunting, I'd stop in there just to stick my head in the door and see what was going on. And here's George. He's in there answering telephones, or he's stapling signs together, or he's just doing grunt work. That's what wins elections. It's the people who do the hard work for really no recognition. They do it because they believe in what they're doing. That's what everybody in here ought to be doing. We have an election coming up next year. That gives you, it's October. 13 months from now, you get to overthrow the government of Washington State if you're up to it. All you got to do is vote. And maybe you got to find a candidate to run against somebody who's an incumbent and help them get elected. And that's not really that difficult. You get on a phone tree, volunteer to put out signs, or show up at a rally someplace. Hold an evening coffee at your house so that your candidate can meet a bunch of people and vice versa. A bunch of people can meet your candidate. That's what grassroots is all about. That's how you get things organized. That's how you win. I remember, again, I have mostly memories. I'm too old to be doing much of anything now. But I remember when Don Bonker was our congressional representative around here, the Democrat from, I think, Vancouver. Then Don I became free, he's a Democrat. But he's not like the Democrats you have now. Don Bonker he's a bright guy. He understood some of my issues, which are outdoor issues. He came to all the communities around here just to shake hands and to share some thoughts and to get some thoughts. And I guess he was what you would call a populist. And he won a couple of elections. Well, he won several elections, if I recall correctly. He was a good guy. I don't think he could get elected today as a Democrat. I don't think they'd let him on. And that's really sad, too, because the way the party has really shifted from a party for the blue-collar people to a party for the loons in Seattle. And if you turn out the vote in the numbers that you need, you might be able to beat those guys or at least push them back. They know you're out here, but they think, hey, these guys they're lethargic, they're a bunch of couch potatoes, they're bumpkins, nerds. Show me that's a fight left in you. I did a column for Guns Magazine about a year ago, I think. And it was all about liberals. And I think the headline was pretty much to the effect, hey, they want to fight, let's give them one. They're not used to that. They really are. They are not used to having somebody just stand and say, hey, no, wait a minute. We don't agree with what you're talking about. We're going to vote against you. We're going to campaign against you. We're going to knock on all the doors in your district and talk to the people who answer the door. They don't like to hear that. All they want to do is keep winning. Can't do that by just sitting on the couch watching reruns. You got to fill out your ballots. You got to get active. It's as simple as waking up in the morning. It really is. If you've got a few extra bucks, donate it to their campaign. And here's a little bit of information that I shared the last time I was down about a year ago, right? When I was an officer with the Snoqualmie Valley Rifle Club, I used to do a little program called the Bucket of Bucks. Who here belongs to a gun rights organization or to a gun club, a local gun club? Who belongs to that? All right. I got an assignment for you guys. You meet once a month, right? Somewhere? All right. Tomorrow or this weekend, run down to Kmart or Walmart or your local hardware store, get a plastic bucket. You know, one of these $5 plastic buckets. You get yourself a Sharpie and just write on the side of the bucket, on the outside of the bucket of bucks. Take that to your next gun club meeting. Pass it around. Say, hey, kick some money into this and we'll send a check off to, well, the National Rifle Association. And we'll send a check off to the Second Amendment Foundation or the Citizens Committee. Send that money to a gun rights organization because they're going to use every dollar that comes through the door to protect your rights. Lawsuits. I don't count. I think the Second Amendment Foundation right now is involved in more than 55 lawsuits around the country. Lawsuits are expensive. Lawyers don't work for free. We got to pay them. And the good ones, we got to pay them a lot. But they win. The Second Amendment Foundation's got a pretty good track record going to court about stuff, different issues around the country. And the attorneys that we work with are very good at what they do. It's important to support the organizations that support your rights. Now, the NRA has an advantage over some of the other gun groups. They've got the Institute for Legislative Action. They actually can endorse and help elect candidates. Second Amendment Foundation can't do that. They're a 501c3, so they got to stay out of the political arena. But we can sue, and we do sue. Right now, we're Alan Gottlieb, who is the founder and executive vice president. He's brought on board a guy named Adam Kraut, an attorney in Pennsylvania, as the executive director of Second Amendment Foundation. Bright guy. He's a shooter. He's a hunter. We've got on board a guy named Bill Sack, who's another attorney back east. And he's our director of legal activity, whatever it is. He's our director of legal action, I guess is the best way to put it. I talked to him on the phone today. Bright guy. He understands what it takes to get things in court. We've got some good minds. We got to use them. But we can't let them work for free. So support the groups that support your rights. That's another way to win elections. If you worry about somebody not liking you, because you vote, maybe you have a red cap on that says MAGA. I was going to bring a bunch of red caps down here that said Second Amendment Foundation on, but it turns out we've run out of the red ones. And so, one of the ladies in the office said, well, would you like any other color? I said, no, the idea is you hand these hats out, they'll wear these red hats around, people will think, oh, those are MAGA hats. Then they'll read them, Second Amendment Foundation. Oh, well, what's that? Gives you an opening. Now I'm going to open it up to questions. And my first answer is, it's none of your business. Who's got a question? Come on, somebody's got to have a question. Nobody has a question? Oh, you have a question.
I have a question. I have a statement.
A statement?
Yeah, I'm Joe Lewis.
Hi, Joe.
I represent, when I'm shooting, I belong to Black Diamond Gun Club. Now, obviously, I'm in King County, but I come to these meetings because you have some interesting people come here. So,
can you hold it up to your mouth, please?
thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
So Jane told me that he was pretty busy here in Pierce County, so I've been in touch with John Dahl. And we're looking to invite him out to the gun club. We've got about 1,000 members, a little bit over 1,000. But we lately been having a recruiting drive, and so about every one of our board meetings, which is every twice a month, we have new people come in, and there's quite a few of them, 20, 25 at that time. And they're all kind of looking for knowledge. And so one of the things, being a board member, I've taken on the job to address the legislative issues. And we've got an initiative in place to inform our membership to get the apathy problem underway. And we set up a system to do flash alerts. We put the old-fashioned, old-school bulletin boards up, both out at our pistol rifle range and on the shotgun range. And they've had some effect, and I try to stay in touch with Paul Bunyan Club and a member out at Seattle Skeet and Trap. What I'd like to invite, if there's anybody in here that's a gun club member or a board member or something, we'd like to collaborate. We're looking for best practices. Like Paul Bunyan and Al Richardson, I think, is the secretary. And they have a newsletter. Not all gun clubs have newsletters. We abandoned ours 3 or 4 years ago. But I now use flash alerts So when this stuff comes out and it's timely, and there's a hearing down in Olympia, I send out flash alerts to our 1,000 members. And I take some of Jane's stuff, and hopefully John's got that same kind of information. He doesn't?
I give him stuff.
Okay, so anyway, somehow we'll get it.
Yes.
But I send that information, how to contact your legislator, either directly by contacting me with an email. I normally coordinate all my stuff with Jim Walsh and others like him. I watched the legislative sessions, many of them go way into the evenings. How those guys have the patience to do that and put up with that kind of crap that, I think the last number I heard was 65-35, liberal, conservative. And when you look at those hearings, you listen to the amendments.
Here you go. We are 11 votes short in the Senate, and we are 20 votes short in the House.
So,
We have this over there. We have to get to 50% plus 5 to stop these rotten bills.
okay. So what we're trying to do our part at this gun club. Now, another thing I did about a year and a half ago, is I inventoried all the gun clubs in the state of Washington. Either firing ranges, gun clubs. Some of the indoor ranges I stayed away from. But there's about 70, 75 that I could find. There's a lot of us. There's over 700,000 CPL holders in this state. That bill you talked about that got turned into law that goes in effect in 2027.
Mm-hmm.
That also requires CPL holders to take that same training to get their new license, renew their license. You would have thought that we would have got more than, I calculated about 2% of that 750,000 CPL holders. You would have had a lot more involvement, a lot more opposition in Olympia than what turned out. I think the number was like 12 or 15,000 people wrote in and opposed that bill. We got a lot of work to do. A lot of it's apathy. It's the same issue with opposing these gun bills as it is trying to get people out and vote. We're trying to do our job at Black Diamond. I send information to SST. Some of these gun clubs are on not their own property. Like Cascade and SST are on King County property. And I think that I've contacted them and they're not too anxious to advertise that they're opposing these bills. And I just wonder if it has something to do with the fact they're leasing property in King County.
Yes, I've talked to them. They don't want to upset the liberals on the King County Council.
Yes. So we've got to kind of work with those that are willing to work with the membership as opposed to the actual club. Makes it harder for us. But our club, we own our own property, and we're trying to get active in doing what you've been suggesting all night.
Good.
If you know any other clubs, I'm easy to contact. You can get hold of the Black Diamond Gun Club. We've got a website, and put them in touch with me. But we'd like to find out what the best practices are and try to involve ourselves toward that in that direction.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, go ahead. Give him a hand. Anybody else?
Yeah,
George, just a second, over here.
oh, right. Hello, everybody. I was really embarrassed when my phone was making a lot of noise. I was trying to post what we're doing here on a lot of social media because I was expecting some people to show up that didn't. And I wanted to tell them what they're missing. The one thing everybody got to keep in mind, kids are all on their phones. We need to be on the phones. We need a presence there. Don't be afraid to use social media. A lot of us gray hairs are, and we're not communicating to people that way. One thing I learned about combat overseas is that your commo is what saves you.
You gotta, the radio is the most powerful weapon because that's what we had for communications. And right now your phone, as much as people hate the technology, guess what? Well, let me see, if you got a radio and you're in a fight, you can call for fire, you can call for medevac, casevac, everything. That's how you win. If you don't have communication, you lose. Bad. So, I just actually posted on half a dozen Republican and Washington State members what we're doing here.
I have a pretty good presence on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to say that this is live streamed right now on Facebook already. See the cameras?
Oh, good.
So every time we do a workshop, if your friend can't make it or lives on the other side of the state, we always live stream it. And then we have Al here who posts on his YouTube channel. So we got that one covered. And if any of you guys saw my Bob Ferguson King poster, just to let you know, that got shared about 50,000 times within a matter of a couple days. So, yes, we do that. I don't like Reddit, but we do the other ones.
Yeah.
If you have a chance in January or February to go to Olympia to attend a public hearing, let me make a suggestion. When I go down there to testify or to just cover a bill hearing, they usually have like 3 or 4 different bills they hold public hearings on at the same time. You look around the room and you see all these people sitting back, 99% of them are women. They're wearing these orange T-shirts. If you're going to go and be noticed, I suggest everybody put on a camo jacket. Be polite, but be present and be visible. Be early so you can sit in the front rows. And all those people with the orange T-shirts will have to sit in the back rows. That means, or it may mean, as Jane well knows, you've got to get there like at 7 o'clock in the morning to be the first in the line.
Nope, 5:30.
5:30. Well, yeah, I do get up early, so I get down there too. But you got to be there first with the most. And there are a limited number of seats in the hearing room. Sometimes, in fact, typically with a gun bill, they have to use overflow rooms, which I think they're downstairs, or they may be across the hall or something. But they bring the meeting to you by television of some kind, monitors. But if you're there early and you all look alike, wear a camo jacket or camouflage hat, because unfortunately, Hunter Orange, they've stolen that from us. So we got to do something else. We've got to let them know on that committee that, hey, guess what? You got a room full of gun owners here. And if you do the wrong thing, they're not going to be terribly happy with you. Now, it was mentioned about the new law that takes effect on May 1st, 2027. There probably will not be a lawsuit challenging that law until after it takes effect. Because until it takes effect, we won't have any damaged parties out here. Nobody will have standing. So one thing that you can't do is get impatient and start demanding that staff or the NRA or somebody get out there and file a lawsuit. Look, these guys know what they're doing. And I can say with some amount of confidence that they're already working on this problem. But they got a whole year to do this, year and a half really, to find good plaintiffs. You've got to find plaintiffs that you can vet, that will be solid plaintiffs. I was a plaintiff in the law. I sued the city of Seattle about 6-7 years ago because they violated the Public Records Act. I wrote them a request for revenue information from the gun tax they passed in 2015. Wouldn't give it to me. And so I thought about that for a couple of seconds. I went over and talked to Alan Gottlieb, told him what was going on. He said, well, let's do it. PRE request. You're a journalist. You have a right to that information because the public has a right to that information. So we sued him successfully in court. And I remember Alan called me at home. I was on vacation that week. He said, hey, we need a news release. You won. What the hell are you talking about? Well, the court came down and said you won the lawsuit. Seattle wasn't going to dare appeal. They've been sued by the Seattle Times for PRA violations. Now, the Public Records Act in this state is actually an effective tool. And all I wanted was revenue information. I didn't want to say who was making the money or how much. I just wanted to know how much revenue, the tax revenue that the city of Seattle had gathered from this gun tax. They didn't want to give it to me. And I think the reason they didn't want to give it to me is because it was woefully short of what they had predicted when they passed this thing. They were talking about getting anywhere from $400,000 to $500,000 annually. I think the first tax revenue came in about $99,000. The second one was a little bit more than that. Third one was up to $143,000, but it never came close to the predicted revenue level that they had promised the public when they adopted the tax. It never will either. It won't. So you can use the PRA to your advantage if there's an issue. Just file a formal request. They really have to give you the information. Anybody else have a question? Anybody else have a yeah, back here, way back in the back of the room.
Is there anything a member of the general public can do to oppose these lawsuits, frivolous lawsuits against gun manufacturers? For instance, the city of Seattle's lawsuit against Glock.
No, we leave that to Glock and Glock's attorneys. Believe me, they know more about doing that than anybody. If you recall, back in 1999 and 2000, there were a slug of these lawsuits filed by, New Orleans, Chicago, several of the cities around the country, all run by Democrats. What they were trying to do is bankrupt the gun industry by costing them millions of dollars to defend their marketing practices in court. Most of those lawsuits eventually got thrown out, but they had accomplished what they were after. They cost the firearms industry a boatload of dollars. So what we can do is buy products from these guys and help them pay their attorneys and let them defend their battles, because they've already got court precedent that stop these junk lawsuits. They really are junk lawsuits. They're harassment lawsuits. So, there are some places where individual citizens really need to stay out of the arena. That becomes a spectator sport. Let them handle their legal affairs because they're good at it. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Brent Simpson here. I was wondering, I know that we lost the...
Got a microphone coming to you right there.
Thank you. Brent Simpson here.
Uh-huh.
I know that the Supreme Court ruled against us on the kits for the P80 and other home-built arms. I haven't heard much of anything else about non-kit home-builts going on. Do you have any other information on that, maybe?
No, I'm sorry, Frank, I don't. there are things go on out there that even I don't know about.
I can help with that a little bit.
Okay.
In Washington State, they made it to where Washington State, in one of our bills, I'm not exactly sure which one, they made it a requirement that any home-built firearm that was made from 2019 on has to be sent into a 7 FFL SOT and get serialized. So we're not allowed to do 80%ers or home builds anymore outside of muzzle loaders.
I have some pre-COVID.
There you go.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
More of a statement than a question. Thanks for your service as a fellow veteran. And one thing I learned is that fear is contagious, but so is courage. And in the current political environment, I cannot think of a better time in the last 20 years that we've got these evildoers on the run. They are just devastated nationally. This government shutdown is putting us further and further in the crapper with the electorate. And shame on us if we don't take advantage of that in Washington. We got to get off our complacent butts and get out and talk to our friends and neighbors and anybody that will listen, anybody that's even, maybe they don't agree with us, but they're honest and open-minded. We've got to talk to them because if we can't win now and we won't fight for our rights, I wonder how much we deserve that. We're not willing to defend them.
Well, I'll give you an idea. And it doesn't even involve guns. Talk to everybody about what they're paying for a gallon of gas. I don't know about you, but I don't like paying $4.69 a gallon for gasoline. When I started driving, I was paying 35 cents a gallon, which shows you how old I am. But that relates to everybody. And something that I have maintained for a very long time, that people who think they're smarter than I am just call it hogwash. But the entire economy of the United States revolves around the price of a gallon of gas. Whatever that trucker has to spend to get your goods to your local stores, that's passed on to you with higher food prices. Whatever has to be spent to get those clothes that you wear, or the utensils that you buy, the Christmas gifts that you're going to be buying, all those costs get passed on to you as consumer. And the price of a gallon of gas is only one party's fault in this state, and you could remind everybody of that. And that's really got nothing to do with guns, but I'll tell you what. You recall the late House Speaker Tip O'Neill, Thomas B. Tip O'Neill, an old school Democrat. He was the House Speaker when Ronald Reagan was president. And Tip O'Neill had something to say that I have wanted to carve that in granite someplace. All politics is local. Remember when in 1994, when 54 Democrats were thrown out of office because they voted for the Clinton crime bill and the Brady handgun act. They didn't think people would turn out to vote for that. Well, guess what? And it scared the hell out of the Democrats. For the next 14 years, Republicans were in control. The price of a gallon of gas. The people who support that are the same people who want to step on your Second Amendment rights. So use that as a message. You don't even have to talk about gun politics. Just talk about, hey, when's the last time you bought a box of Wheaties? When's the last time that you wanted to get a roast for dinner? Buy a chicken. Not a chuck roast. But think outside the box with this stuff, because the same people that are trying to step on your rights are the same people that are stepping on your bank account. I think I can wrap it up with that, with just one other piece of advice. When you leave here tonight, I want you to drive careful. The reason I say that is because early in my career, I used to photograph fatal accidents for the State Patrol. And I saw stuff that I hope none of you ever has to look at. And that taught me that people who drive stupid are either going to get themselves killed or they're going to kill somebody else. The law of averages catches up to you eventually. Please drive careful. It's dark out there. It's probably been raining. Somebody may be out there. It could be a little drunk tonight because tomorrow's Friday. Just drive careful, please. And thank you all for coming down here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dave. I'm doing my day up there. So, we had some questions about how you can volunteer. Well, there are lots of things we can do to volunteer. I want to say that if any of you can help donate, we've got a couple containers around the room. Via, do you want to hold one up? So what we use the money for is to print the publications. A couple weeks ago, Via and I went to the Tri-Cities. We did, there was a trade show for women, and so it's about hair, makeup, cooking, all that kind of stuff. And we had a gun rights booth, and we were so busy that the people selling stuff next to us asked us how we get everyone to our booth. So a lot of times women will vote for the anti-gun party because they think they're supportive of women. And if you have any of those women in your life, I have a flyer back there that says how Democrats are harming women. They do not support women. But if you can donate tonight, thank you so much. I don't charge for these workshops because we want everybody to feel welcome and invited. And we don't want to charge because the government, Bob Ferguson, has just started taxing live presentations and gun classes. So now the gun classes we teach are more expensive. But I'm going to go over a few ways you can volunteer. So during the election season, now some people might think that your vote doesn't count. Well, there's a couple of things. After the 2020 election, when Bob Ferguson or Jay Inslee won by 537,000 votes, that's approximately how many gun owners in Washington state did not vote. And at that year, we found out that over 900,000 people of faith did not vote. And Jay Inslee won by 537. So we can turn this state around if people vote. And why voting is important? This guy over here, you think school boards aren't important? He had CPS show up at his house a month or so ago on a Sunday morning wanting to see the guns in the house because the little kindergartner had mentioned about guns. So teachers are asking about guns in the house. And so that's why your school boards are very important. We don't want any woke people in there. They put him through hell. So please, we do need to vote. So in-person voting, we help gun owners vote. We help them at this gun club. We help them at Tacoma Rifle. We help them at the WAC. We will print ballots. We will have information for voting. If any of you guys want a sample ballot, they'll probably be ready by Saturday afternoon. We need people to help volunteer to go to gun businesses. I can't cover the whole state by myself. We put together packets for gun businesses. We want every gun business to ask their customers, are you a registered voter? And we prefer that they use the paper copies because it's less likely to cheat than signing online. So we want a clear signature. So I do have paper copies. If you know any youth groups, the Secretary of State has something called Future Voter. They register 16 and 17-year-olds to vote. A 17-year-old can vote in the primary if they'll be 18 by the general. And guess what the turnout is for 17-year-olds because their school teachers are telling them to vote? It's high. It's higher than the 18 to 30-year-olds. And, you know, they aren't most teachers. If you've seen these Hate America rallies, most of the teachers out there wanting to shoot ICE officers and things like that are school teachers. So, again, it's important to vote. So we also do in-person voting in the churches. Like I say, about 900,000 people of faith in 2020 did not vote. And so if you belong to a church, we put together a kit, similar information, just catered to the church. If you can do a group at your church, that would be great. But helping us with the gun business is I have the signage for registering to vote. We have voter registration forms. I make the anti-gun bills. They're all the gun bills since 2019. And the reason for 2019, prior to that, we didn't have that many anti-gun bills because the legislature was balanced. In 2018, the Democrats gained 12 seats. They kicked out all the moderate gun-owning Democrats, and they brought in progressives. Not one Democrat down there supports your gun rights. And I've seen people in this state, some competitive shooters, saying, why aren't any youth coming to, shoot? We're losing all the youth. Well, that's because all the parents are moving out of state. So quit voting Democrat. They don't like you. They hate all of us. I shouldn't have to, some of you have heard my testimony. I survived a home invasion by 2 men. And that's why I became a firearm instructor. And that's why I testify, but I shouldn't be asking them my permission for me to protect myself in my own home. So we got to be encouraged that there are ways we can change things. So I need help delivering stuff during the legislature. We're going to have a training right in this room on January 8th. So if you want to put it on your calendar right now, we'll be here on January 8th, same time, 6:00. If you signed in, I have your email address, you'll be invited. But we're going to teach you how to talk to your legislators, how to testify. On one bill, you may have to testify 6 times. The Speaker of the House introduces gun bills on a Friday night at 11 p.m. And then she goes and sleeps in her office, gets up at 1:30 in the morning, goes back out on the floor, and spends another half hour or so, and then says, we're adjourning till tomorrow morning. She is punishing the Republicans and all of us. And that's those rotten gun bills have all been passed on a Friday night. So we're going to teach you about that and how to comment on the bills. It's essential that we all comment. We stopped, I don't know if any of you are aware, but we stopped a bill where you had to get insurance, which isn't available anywhere, or put $25,000 cash per gun on deposit with the Department of Licensing. That bill got stopped. And but guess what? It could be brought up next year. It's still, bills are alive for 2 years. The one bill that we did stop, the Senate Bill 5098, that's the no gun zone bill. So like we were talking about that one gun club that's on King County property, it was banning guns on any government property. And so that could come up and shut that down. So we need people testifying. So we need help with the gun shows, and some people in the room here have helped us, and sometimes it's frustrating when people will mosey by you and say, I don't want to talk about politics. George can tell you about that. But, we still try to encourage them to help out. So with the Washington Arm Collector Gun Show, I need help doing those several times a year. And if you guys can join them and support them, they're dwindling down to nothing because you can't buy a gun there. So then during the legislature, I need people testifying. We need people with good stories. We need, if you get up and say it's my Second Amendment right, the Democrats will all shut you off. So I sound like a feminist when I'm up there, and I know everybody has gun rights, but I talk about women's rights. And I sound like a feminist because I'm talking to the Democrats, not the Republicans. So we teach you how to testify, how to sign in. And again, as I said, it's a pain in the neck, though. If a bill's going to go all the way forward, it starts in the House or the Senate first, then it switches to the other chamber. So you may have to comment on a bill 6 or more times. Every committee you have to comment. So that's where I need some help. So put on your calendar January 8th, and we'll train you on that. And if you want to contact your elected officials, I have contacted mine. Unfortunately, my district's all Democrat anymore. And I told my rep, I said, you need to fix that assault weapon ban bill. I said, my 22 caliber Smith & Wesson 22 compact pistol that I use for training is banned. I can't buy anymore. And I said, and you expect me to train more people after 2027, and it's just because there's a little bit of threading in the barrel that somebody could add a suppressor. So that's banned. Hardini competition pistols, can't buy those either. And there's other stupid things that you can't buy. Rifles, can't really buy adjustable stocks anymore. And, I may have a rifle student that's this tall or one that's that tall, and I need an adjustable stock. So there's a lot of things we can do with that. If you want to talk to your elected official, please make an appointment with them now and before December 31st. Have a meeting with them, have an agenda, ask them how much time you get, and stick to an agenda. Don't get sidetracked because some of them may only give you 10 minutes. So have that. If you want to know how to speak to or communicate to them, I can email you. I wrote a 5-page sheet on how to communicate to your legislators. So we're going to have some trade show opportunities in January. The Sportsman Show right at the Puyallup Fairgrounds is 5 days. It starts on a Wednesday, goes through a Sunday. I'm going to need help doing shifts there. And again, what we're doing is talking to people and getting them to sign in on those bills. That's how we had 8,000 people sign in on that insurance bill 3 days before the hearing. And the other side saw all the comments, and so they just totally eliminated it from the agenda. But if we're apathetic, it's going to come back. And I don't know about you guys, but I can't afford to put $25,000 per gun with the Department of Licensing, which isn't even a depository. They don't have those kind of rights. So we do need to register voters. A lot of gun owners don't want to do jury duty, but they go by your driver's license. So if they drive, they should be registered to vote. Campaign work. Next year is going to be a major election year. So the NRA, a division of the NRA called NRA-ILA, has a texting program, and we've had several hundred people in the state of Washington texting for pro-Second Amendment candidates. And the texting is done on a computer, either your laptop or whatever, at your house. You do it right from your house. No one sees it. It's not your phone number that shows up. But the NRA pays for this program, and it's really nice. Like I say, I've had several hundreds of people. We have sent out and responded to millions of text messages. We, in this state, helped the president win. We helped all the swing states, and we helped our own state. So if you want to do texting, that's a really nice, you don't have to talk to anybody. And if someone says F you already see that on social media anyway, so it doesn't bother anybody. But you can do doorbelling and phone banking too. We do have apps for those. if you can do a meet and greet at your business for a good, viable candidate. This gun club, I got them to have one of the major candidates for governor, I'll just say that, that lives in King County or wherever. No, he doesn't. He lives over in Chelan County, I think. But this gun club had a candidate come and speak and meet everybody and shake hands. A lot of gun clubs are 501c3s or 501c7s. Same with your church. You can invite good pro-Second Amendment or pro-family. I got some family bills over there too. But invite or do a meet and greet with your group. You know, let's help them out. The press does not help us, as Dave can tell you. It's amazing. I've had several press. I've had the Seattle Channel, NPR, TVW. I've had the Seattle Times and a bunch of others wire me up during a gun class, and all they could say was a little clip of "these guns won't stop crime," and they've been with me for like several hours. The only one that represented me fairly was the Fox Digital, and I've been on Fox and Friends a few times too. Now, Tacoma has a gun and ammo tax too, but they've received no money from it, but they chased away every gun store except Bullseye and Bass Pro. So there's a lot of different ways to help pro-Second Amendment candidates. A lot of it is name recognition. So if any of you would like to serve on the committee of fundraising, I want to do a big fundraiser to raise money for that lawsuit that's going to be needed. We are going to, with House Bill 1163, that's going to require you all to get a permit to buy a gun. To get that permit, you're going to have to take live fire training. And to get your CPL renewed or a new one, you're going to have live draw from holster training. And all that's going to cost money. I don't know, the Washington State Patrol is going to administer all that, but they're not working on it until next year. And I've already been in contact with the Attorney General's office to say your information on de-escalation, conflict resolution, and deadly use of force is all for law enforcement. Civilians don't buy weapons. We buy firearms. We are on the defensive side. The offensive side buys weapons. We don't. So I'm trying to educate them. We'll see if they do a manual for consumers, but I doubt. I'm trying to get them to do their job instead of suing Trump all the time. So we talked about the stats, donating legislative training, again, January 8th. If you want to be a firearm instructor, as we mentioned in 27, everybody's going to need training to get a permit. There are over 6,000 members of gun clubs in Pierce County alone. The NRA is very picky on safety. They want one instructor for every 2 students with 1 shooting at a time. Can you imagine how long that's going to take to train these 6,000 people? Or the over 700,000 concealed permit holders. You know, Pierce County leads the pack in the concealed permits. We are well over 1,000 processed this year than King County. And that's, I think, because we're a little more educated. That's what I told, I forget what reporter asked me about that. I think he asked you too, didn't he? Why the permit? I was trying to remember about
I wasn't
that.
as polite as you were.
Yeah, I invite reporters to come to gun class. I invite elected officials too. Every year I offer a free gun class for the Democrats. To this date, none of them have taken me up on the offer. And it's free. But if you do want to be an instructor, I've got a team of volunteers that are helping conduct training. And so we don't get paid, we volunteer. So the 2 full-day basic pistol, basic rifle, we charge $60. It's $30 a day. But unfortunately, the governor has added a sales tax to that. I can't take that off, but you still can't get a better deal on a class. And some of you in this room have taken the class, and some of you are signed up, so that's great. So we do appreciate helping everybody. I want you to remember to vote on November 4th. Get your friends to vote. If you want a sample ballot, I'll have those ready by Saturday. I might just email all of you, and you can do with it what you want. It's going to be Pierce County. I have some people working on South King County, because in churches we do this too. If somebody accidentally threw their ballot away, we print it. There's some little cards on that table over there. I cut them out. There were 4 on a page. So that's votewa.gov. If you want to verify that your ballot was received, you can go to votewa.gov. If you accidentally threw your ballot away already because you're frustrated, you can go to votewa.gov and print your ballot. Because if you don't print your ballot, or if you don't vote, there are people that are nefarious that watch and see who didn't vote, and they might just vote for you. So there are some things. The election centers themselves are pretty okay. Put your ballot in a drop box, not the mail. I still have not received my ballot from last year in the primary. July 19th, I saw a picture of it in the email that came to me, but I still haven't received it. So the other thing is we do live stream. This is being live streamed on Facebook. It's on my women's rights gun Facebook. It's for men too. I just was trying to get people, women especially, to sign up because they vote the wrong way a lot of times. I do have some resources back there on the table. This one says liberal voter information. You wouldn't believe how many NGOs and nonprofits are in the state of Washington that farm team Democrat candidates. I mean, even religion, like the Associated Ministries of Pierce County. There's nothing faith-minded about that. Well, they do feed people, but they farm team Democrats. The Alliance for Gun Responsibility, right here, the anti-gun people. Do you know they used to just endorse legislative candidates. Now they endorse sheriffs. They endorse county, city council, school board races. But the Progressive Voter Guide, which is very well funded, just know that you need to vote the opposite. 99% of the time, you vote the opposite. They did have a judge on there one time that I knew wasn't liberal and was pro-Second Amendment, but he had a campaign manager that had in with the left on there. So anyway, take the resources. I have the anti-gun bills, some other stuff back there. And do you want to hold up one of those orange cards? So these are NRA legislative alert cards. If you want to get an alert during the legislature about the rotten gun bills, they will send you an email or a text, and it says take action. Click on it. They do the letter for you. All you have to do is hit send. It's real simple. So please grab one of those and fill it out and leave it here, and we'll get you signed up for a legislative alert. So I think I've gone through my big long list. And as I mentioned, if you think that the Republicans aren't doing anything, this is why. Those red dots need to be at 50% plus one. They took away their right to speak down there. And they're trying to, they aren't listening to us. If you see the anti-family, for those of you who are paying attention there, I think that was House Bill 1296, where the Democrats say that you have no right to your kids, grandkids, anything. So it's not just gun rights, it's a lot of other things. And like Dave mentioned, you can bring up other things as well. But we'll go over the whole legislature on January 8th. I'll have resources. I'll have guides about how it functions. We'll have samples. If you like to write, and you maybe would like to write someone's speech, the other side has somebody writing all their speeches. The other side has somebody sitting at a computer at night keying in all of the names and putting in pro. And because it's very odd that at 10 o'clock at night you'd have 2,000 people sign up for a bill. So the other thing I will mention just real quickly, if not to make you mad, but the anti-gun group, Alliance for Gun Responsibility, your tax dollars have been paying them on a contract or a grant for over $550,000. They turn around with that money and they give it to Democrat candidates. It's your money, your hard-earned money. So that's why voting's so important. We don't want you down in the dumps, but voting is so important, and we could change the state if we all just vote. And so I really appreciate Dave coming down here. And Dave, how do people, what gun publications do you write for so people can sign up for those?
Well, you can find my byline. Oh, thank you. You can find my byline. Alas, American Handgunner and Guns magazine are no longer in print. I was very proud to have my byline both. But online, you can find me at thegunmag.com, libertyparkpress.com. You can find my monthly column in Northwest Sportsman magazine. I've started writing a little bit for the American Shooting Journal. Let's see, AmmoLand News. That's also online. You can find my byline there. So if you can look me up on Google. I'm all over the place. It's occupational hazard, but it has actually paid off. I was deer hunting 2 weekends ago. Stopped to talk to a couple of guys, and they said, "Hey, you're Dave Workman, aren't you?" I said, "Well, yeah. That's happened to me in grocery stores. That's happened to me before on a hunting trip over in Chelan County several years ago. My brother was there, and 20 minutes later, he was still laughing about that." It's nice to be recognized, but at the same time, you guys are the ones who make things happen. I just write about this stuff. You guys are the people who make this stuff happen. You make it work. You got to do your part, and I'll do my part. Okay? That a deal? That was really enthusiastic. It's like the ninth inning of the Mariners the other night. All right. But, yeah, you can find my byline there. You can always get in touch with me on Facebook, or you can leave a message at the Second Amendment Foundation up in Bellevue. I'm sure I'll get the message eventually. But please be active in your own community. That's the main thing. You got to vote. You got to vote. Now I got to leave. It's a long drive back to North Bend. But thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, well, I want to thank all the volunteers that have helped put this on tonight. And I want to thank the Tacoma Sportsmen for letting us use the room. We really appreciate this club. If you haven't signed the initiatives, they're in the back of the room. Help yourself to anything. And with that, you guys all have a safe drive home. Thank you so much for coming. Remember January 8th and bring a friend.
All right.